Hello and welcome to another episode of the Expanse Abridged Podcast series. Today we've got chapter 36, which is a Miller chapter of the first book in the series, Leviathan Wakes. So when we last saw our boys, they'd just blown up one of those ships, the stealth ships that had originally attacked the Canterbury, right at the back at the start of the book. They'd seen a load more of the blue goo, and they'd learnt about the protogen maniacs with the guy that looked like a shark. And before that, obviously, Eros incident, yada, yada, yada. So our boys, they're on the Rocinante, they're flying through, and they're slowly getting better, is the other thing as well. Because obviously, they all, Miller and Holden, have so much cancer that they're dying, and they're still feeling better. But the last lines in the last chapter we read together was about Earth attacking Mars. So the Earth-Mars Coalition Navy had kind of fallen apart, and they'd attacked the Deimos Deep Space Radar Station or some shit. Maybe not radar, I don't know, because would radar even work in space? Probably telescopes. But yeah, so anyway, the war stories flowed in. Miller's sat there watching the news, he's kind of radicalising himself, and there's talking heads of Earth security forces that are like, this is preemptive defence, or attacking Mars as a bunch of baby raping animals, is the quote. And the Martian Navy, which has been all through the belt, kind of trying to control belters, has decided to come home, and they're all burning home to kind of cover the war that's going on. Ships are floating around Mars, basically. And as Miller's watching all this, Amos kind of comes in and says, "You ready to sleep?" Miller's like, "No, I've been up all night." And Amos asks if anybody's dropped a rock. Because obviously dropping rocks would be kind of the biggest thing you could do, like to take out like asteroid impacts, because it's incredibly powerful. And Miller kind of thinks as long as the domes were still standing on Mars, and as long as the critical biosphere of Earth wasn't in direct threat, humanity wasn't dead. Because if you hit those, and you take them out of an asteroid, you're probably fucked. Amos asks if he wants a beer, and he's like, because they're on different sleep cycles, so it's a beer for breakfast for Amos and a beer for dinner for Miller. And Miller hasn't been sleeping very well ever since he's just got on the ship. I think particularly he hasn't had more than a cat nap since they scuttled the stealth ship. Has been played by strange dreams, which is probably Julie, as he's seen kind of where she was, saw her on video, and saw the goo that was associated with her. And he walks down for a beer with Amos, and walking through the Rocinante feels surreal for him, because the first time in quite a while he's been on a spaceship and had time to relax without people trying to kill him, or there being monsters everywhere. And as he's sitting down for breakfast, his alarm chimes. He has to go back to the medic bay to get some more like anti-cancer drugs. And in there is Holden. And he's like, he's walking, he's going to open with, "I told you so," but doesn't. And asks if they've decided where they're going to go. And he's like, "We're going to try and could try and go to Mars, but it's getting kind of hard right now." And they kind of make some small talk as the needles kind of stick into his arm. And they're kind of talking about the information thing, but when is it going to stop? And Holden's like, the only reason this kind of war started, Earth has attacked Mars, is because he's kind of surmising Protogen have told Earth to do it because they can be the only guys with this molecule, and they must think Mars has it as well. And Holden's like, "Fuck it, right, I've got the data files, I'm going to broadcast them." To which Miller replies, as easy as a reflex, "No, you aren't." And he's like, "Holden, you're not good at shooting people, I know that, and to broadcast the data files, you're going to have to shoot me." So it's twice now you've had the choice of whether or not to break the solar system, and both times you've screwed it up. I don't want to see you strike out. And Holden kind of tries to rationalise his behaviour. So he's basically, in the last few chapters, or we've seen, he releases information and then shit goes down. And Holden's like, Earth has always hated Mars, like he was reporting that water was wet. And he's saying when he was in the Navy, they had all these plans about Earth attacking Mars, and the plan was always go hard, because Mars has got the better spaceships, which we learned at the very, very start with the Donager-class battleships. And he's like, Miller's like, "Okay, your defence is not my powder keg, I just brought the match." Not really buying it. Because obviously Miller's like, you shouldn't be sending out information because it just starts a war, which it does every time. And he's like, then Holden kind of goes, all this would be different if there was perfect information, if people could make decisions. The problem isn't that people know too much, it's that they don't know enough. To which Miller, because it's Miller, tells a story. And he's like the case back on the series when some little girl had been killed, the dad was a felon and he was drunk, and for the first 19 hours it was assumed it would be him. Then they got a tip and it turned out he owed money to some gangsters, and it was them who actually killed the kid. And so if I'd released the information in those first 19 hours, that dad would have died. Simple as. Which is kind of him explaining to Holden you shouldn't be doing it. And to Holden being like, if you take his idea of perfect information, if everyone had the same information as Protogen, then it would be better. Which Miller's like, yeah, because telling everyone there's an alien virus that wants to kill them all is a great way to maintain calm and order. Holden replies, "Miller, I don't mean to panic you, but there's an alien virus, and it does want to kill everybody." So they're kind of going back and forth on this point about kind of how much information should be out there. So far, I do kind of ear more with Miller, because Holden's kind of saying if there was perfect information, but there just can't be. And yeah, they keep going. The idea of like every time we release information, all it does is justify someone's prejudice effectively. So like Earth hates Mars, and they're scared of them, so they would attack. And releasing information gives them an excuse to do it rather than a reason. Just kind of excuses floating about. And so Miller doubles down and goes, "What? So you keep doing this information. What happens afterwards?" And Holden's like, "People will stop the war. They'll all put their hands down. They'll go after Protogen instead." And which Miller's like, if that molecule, the alien molecule, is half as valuable as Protogen thing, people will still go after it, and they'll fight over that instead of fighting each other, but they'll still be fighting. And Miller watched a little piece of the man's idealism die and was sorry that he gave him joy. And he's like, right, we can get to Mars and try and like sell this thing for all the money in the world, but they'll probably just shoot us. You can try in the belt, but they'll probably just shoot us. Holden's like, there has to be a right thing to do, kind of pleading almost like a prayer. And Miller goes, you don't have a right thing, friend. You've got a whole plate full of maybe little less wrong. And Holden's, they're still going, this chapter basically is just this debate. So Holden's like, your argument boils down to you not thinking people are smart enough to figure out the right way to use it, like regarding information. Miller, has anyone used anything you've broadcast as something besides an excuse to shoot someone they already didn't like? Holden's getting more and more distressed. He's asking what I should do. The stress in his voice could be anger. It could have been a prayer. To which Miller goes, ask yourself what happens afterwards. Like, what is going to happen? And ask what Naima would do, because she seems smart. Holden laughs, going, is that how you make decisions? And Miller, obviously because Miller, closes his eyes and sees Julie Mao. Sees her in her old apartment, sees her fighting people on the Scopuli, and sees her burst open with alien virus. It's like something like that. There's quite a fun little debate there about like if you release it or not and kind of the effects of it, but also through two men who like one is a idealist who can't stop himself and the other is mental, imagining a girl he's fallen in love with who is dead, blue goo, and he never actually met. So yeah, they're just the boys. They're just the boys, and also the entire time they're high off their tits on cancer drugs. And we kind of cut forward a bit of time. Miller's back watching the news, and an announcement came out of Ceres Station, where Miller originally was, obviously at the start of the book, and Captain Shadid, the lass that fired him, has just killed a load of Martian spies, or supposed Martian spies. And that Miller thinks that's what it's come to. Pogroms after all. Cut off just a few hundred more heads, just 1,000 more heads, just 10,000 more heads, and then we'll be free. So now you've just got like Martians being killed in the streets again. And then there's a small alarm. The ship turns a bit, and that means the ship's made its a course change. So Holden's made a decision. Miller goes, finds him sat in the ops deck, and he's like, right, we're going to go to Tycho Station. We tell everybody about this molecule, etc. We're one small ship. They'll just kill us. That's it. So I'm going to go to Tycho Station. There's someone I trust, or at least don't actively distrust. And Miller kind of goes, explains what he thinks is the right thing, which is throw that safe into a long collision course with the sun and find a way to make sure no one ever goes to Eros or Phoebe again. Pretend none of this ever happened. Holden is, so why aren't we doing that? Miller, how do you throw away the Holy Grail? Chapter ends. So it's definitely a really short one, that. But it's fun. You see the debate. I think it is one. It's hard, really, I think, to take a stand on either side. Because I think they both really do have merits. Holden's probably more idealistic. Miller's a bit more realpolitik, but you can't really like stick with Miller the entire time because you have to hope and believe in Holden's argument almost as in the right thing to do, or there should be a better outcome. And obviously they're just on their little ship with a sample of the protein molecule that they have kept safe, which I probably should have mentioned earlier on, but they have that, and you remember from the last episode. So yeah, it's a good one, that, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a lovely week.